Hello everyone, Argsy here. Welcome along to my first devlog video for Winchester, the new map I've been working on for Farming Simulator 25. This is something I've wanted to do for a very long time, and I've actually found that by sort of spending some time in Giant Seed Editor and outside of the game, some of the current issues that are going on with mod releases and DLCs and all those kind of things, it's kind of been a refreshing way to keep myself engaged in the game, while also sort of avoiding some of that. It's also some of the reason why there hasn't been quite so much content from me lately, because you fall down a rabbit hole that is Giant Seed Editor and map making, and it's kind of consumed me a little bit more than I thought it would. But I've been really enjoying the process, the creative process, as well as the learning, and by goodness, there has been a lot of learning. So I thought I'd do sort of maybe fortnightly, we'll see how regular these are, just some vlog videos just explaining where I'm at with the process, where things are happening at. Firstly, though, I do just want to say a huge thank you to all of the hugely positive comments, all the views, and everyone who's checked out the map teaser. It's something that I wanted to do for myself, to put the map out there, and that should be the motivation I need to get it finished. You guys know it's there now, so I expect you to keep on asking, how's it going? No release dates. Basically I said soon-ish, and soonish it will be. I do have a target in mind, which is sometime in the second half of 2025, so anytime between June and December. I did have a more ambitious target set earlier, but time's got away from me in the last wee while. But I thought we'd jump in first up and just give you a little bit of a rundown on the map in general, a little bit of background information about Winchester itself and where it is in New Zealand. Someone left a comment basically saying, I thought New Zealand was full of hills and this just looks as flat as a pancake. So I'll explain that in a little bit more detail, and then just a little bit of an overview of the PDA and what the map's going to look like. So let's dive in. So the first question you might have, if you haven't already googled it, where is Winchester? Well, we'll zoom in here on New Zealand, North Island up the top there, North, South Island down the bottom. We're zooming into an area, a region called Canterbury. Now this area here is a huge plains, huge arable farms. This is where you'll find an X9 combines, Case quad tracks, 9RX tractors, those kind of things. This will be some of the biggest farming land in New Zealand. It's undergone a little bit of a change over the last 10 or 20 years. It's become a lot more intensively farmed. It has a lot more dairy farms, as dairy farming has become a much more lucrative option. So we've seen a lot of arable land has been converted away from being arable land to now being dairy farming. You can kind of just get a little bit of a glimpse. It's very heavily irrigated as well. Basically, a little bit of geography lesson. New Zealand's divided by basically the Hikurangi Trench and a big fault line. We've got the Indo-Australian plate to the left, Pacific plate out to the east. Basically, this is a big fault line, which is why we get so many earthquakes. And basically, the Southern Alps divides New Zealand, and our prevailing wind is a westerly, so this side gets a lot of rain. I think there's some statistics around how many meters of rain land in Fiordland, but the eastern side has the phone effect, better say that correctly, which is basically the wind blows in all the moist air, hits the hills, dumps all the water, comes across, and then it becomes very dry. So this can be quite a dry area of the world. But we're just going to keep on zooming in here and find Winchester. So like I said, Canterbury Plains, getting down into South Canterbury. A lot of you might have heard of Queenstown, Mount Cook, our tallest mountain in New Zealand. Up over here, Queenstown is over down here. This is Lake Wakatipu, so very popular tourist spot down there. But we are focusing in here on a small town called Winchester. So as you can see, zooming in here, a lot of sort of greener land out this side, a lot of farmland, but you can also see some big arable farms of arable land out that side too. If we come right into basically why did I choose Winchester? Well, firstly, from a map making perspective, it was flat, so it was no challenging terrain or anything like that I'd have to deal with. It is quite a flat area, but I also liked the fact it had the main road going through the middle. It had a town, which we'll get to a little bit later. It has a railway track which goes down through there as well, but it's also kind of divided. We've got these arable farms out here on the right, and then these more pasture grassland out here on the left. Plus, there's a few sort of places in there. We've got a jam production point in there. There's a farm equipment construction business in there. There's just some cool little things that I thought we would try and add. And I've learned actually a lot about the place myself. So that's basically, if I was to draw a line, pretty much down from about here, down across the bottom of Winchester, back up the other side, almost following that straight line there, and up to just north of this farm here. And that was pretty much picking up where our 2 kilometre by 2 kilometre map is. So that's what it is like. It is basically divided in two and provides sort of the best of both worlds to showcase some of what New Zealand has to offer. But certainly there is a lot of sheep in New Zealand, and there's a lot of high country as well. So who knows, I'd love to do that in the future, but let's focus on getting this one done. So now that you've seen Winchester and Google Earth, let's take a look at the PDA here and how that all looks. And there it is. That is the PDA pretty much in all its glory. There's basically 3 main farmyards. We've got one over here, which I'm planning to have animals at, set up a little bit like a dairy farm. The main dairy farm for this area is actually further off the map. You can see these tracks down here lead off to the dairy farm. So there is a lot of artistic license I'm going to take with this map, but I'm trying to sort of stay true to how it is at the moment. We've got another farmyard over this side, so a few sheds and things down there, and then this yard right up here at the top seemed to be set up, if I just zoom in, we've got some silos and things like that, seem to be set up more as a proper arable farm, sort of suited for grains and harvesting and things like that. So you can sort of start to see, as we look in there, how the farmyards are actually, or farmlands are kind of divided. We've got the bigger fields over on the right hand side, 78 acres through there. These are pretty accurate to the actual underlaid fields. Not quite right on a few little spots, but again, artistic license and just trying to get things to fit in there. But some 40 acres, 30 acres, so bigger fields over this side. Then we've got sort of these patches up here. This is kind of grassland, but also arable land. It can be anything. Smaller fields, 7-8 acres, and then we've got this bit mixed in here, and then this big sort of grass area down in here. These are all different sizes. I've designed this, and pretty much all the fences we'll get into in a little bit more detail, but basically designed it. The idea is that you could demolish fences if you wanted to create, merge all of this into one field. It would be possible. Now there is actually, at the moment, this is pivot irrigated. You can start to see some of these circles down in here. There's another one up in here. You can see the one over that side. There's one up in here. So not something I've added. Maybe we'll see that come in the future, but that is that. In terms of the town, that is one thing I'm kind of regretting having the town, because it is quite a lot of work in terms of the decoration and building the town out for really not a lot of benefit. It'll look great and all of that, but the effort that goes into it, and people, it's a farm sim, right? You want to be out farming, but we're going to use the town in a bit of a creative way where we can. Got an area down here where you can rent the train. Now there's no actual spot, there's no grain elevator or anything like that to load if you were loading into a train or use rail. New Zealand doesn't use rail a lot for this kind of thing. It's kind of used to take freight, pre-packaged goods that are being exported, so you wouldn't use it to take grain or something to an elevator or something like that. But to just give an option as a sell point, we are going to have an area here where you could use an auger, dump out of a truck into an auger into a train. You could build your own silo or things like that. As I said, there's a couple of spots over here. This is a farm equipment manufacturer, so we're going to use that as the store. That's going to be our shop. This area here, which is a jam, I don't think it's a factory. It might be a warehouse or packaging. I'm not sure what they use it for, but that is going to be a sell point. Then we've kind of got some other areas. This here is a potato yard. There's actually quite a few potatoes growing around this area, so that's a potato shed, so that will be a sell point. Kind of maybe a farmer's market type thing. And then there's like a mechanics there. We've got a couple of service stations in here, which is what we're standing outside at the moment, which is all going to be very cool. What else is there? Down the bottom here, I'm going to make this the animal dealer. We've got that set up now with sort of a horse arena, but we'll have some yards. You can see they actually have some yards there, but that's off the edge of the map. So I'm going to be a bit creative again with some artistic license there. Over the other side, we've got a sawmill, which actually does look to be a little bit of a sawmill in real life. So that's kind of appropriate. But yeah, that is kind of the gist of it. Up to the top here, this spot here, this is actually a 100-year plus old grain mill. It used to run off a water wheel off the stream, and they used to obviously mill flour, mill the grain and make flour in here. So we're going to try and integrate that in some way, whether it's again a sell point or whether it actually becomes a production point or not. And here's a water supply area. There's a whole lot of water tanks in there, so I figured I'd make that a bit of a water supply area. So yeah, what else is there I'd like to explain? Not a lot of forestry. There's a little bit of a sort of a plantation kind of area there. There's a few plantation areas there. So if you wanted to cut some trees down, there would be some areas you could do that in. But it certainly is not a forestry map. Again, if we got onto the high country map in the future with the sheep farm, a sheep station, that would be the opportunity to bring more forestry into a map in a New Zealand sense. So that's kind of an overview of the map. I just wanted to be able to share a little bit of information so you could understand where I'm at, where I'm sort of progressing, and kind of what the development cycle and development stages are for the map. Obviously, it's still reasonably early days. It's playable. I have been in and obviously ploughed fields of mowing grass, but with that comes a whole lot of learning. So my intention is over the coming weeks, months, is to actually spend some time on some live streams, probably on my Wednesday evening live stream, to go through and actually playtest some of this. There might be an opportunity for it to be on a multiplayer server and playtest it with some of the community as well in the future. I'm just trying to figure out how that might shape up. But let's just jump up in the air and we'll just go for a little bit of a fly around so you can kind of get an overview of the map, where it's at, and we'll talk a little bit more about progress and what there is that I still want to achieve on it. We're going to starting out in the town. We're heading down towards the south, more out into the grassland. You can see all these squares down here, basically where I've mapped out houses would need to go to try and make it as realistic as possible. So yeah, whether I get them all in there or not, I have started putting a few in just to see how I can go with decorating those, what sort of workflow I can come up with to make them work. But there is a whole lot of things I still want to build. I still need to work on the map border as well, as you can see from up here, not quite working perfectly, but that is on the to-do list. But I've already created a few custom models. We've got these custom little water troughs down there modeled on a New Zealand water trough. Again, we've got the couple of silage bunkers as well I've made, which are custom for the map. Also explains why I've been working on a New Zealand pole shed, the bulk bunkers and those kind of things. It was all things I thought I might be able to build that could become assets here for the map. Made some custom cattle yards as well. They're just decorative at the moment, whether they become usable or not. And then I've got some sort of custom buildings. You can see these white buildings all around. These are ones that I've modelled off the real buildings, which are just in there as placeholders at the moment. Similar to how Ola Holdall did it on Renabu to start off with. My intention is to texture those up and get them completed. So I thought they were kind of key buildings in the scheme of things that could be built and really sell the feeling of the place, make it more apt, more realistic, I think is the word I'm trying to look for. So in terms of, I guess I'm just going to carry on flying around and you can just take a look at it. Sorry, I haven't loaded in shaders and cached it and everything, so it's a little bit jerky, but just going to carry on and basically talk a little bit about what I still want to achieve. There's a lot of custom modelling I wanted to do for things like power lines, road signs, obviously these kind of things, those little details I wanted to add would really bring the map to life and make it feel more New Zealand, actually have New Zealand place names on it, New Zealand things. I've got some little plans to have a collectibles through it using little New Zealand Kiwiana type trinkets. I'm thinking, a little buzzy bee or a tiki or a little kiwi, things like that, a rugby ball, silver fern, who knows. So I've got some ideas around that as well. What else is there I wanted to work on? Obviously the custom models I've talked about. There's still a lot of work to do on the roads in terms of texturing those, particularly now that Giants have released those new videos on how to build roads, and there's a whole lot of information there that I need to go through and get my head around and understand. Trying to think what else there is. I've started working on whole things. There's a fence pack. I've been trying to work on a sort of fence pack that would be suitable in New Zealand. I was going to do gates, but with Oxygen David, saying he was considering releasing his gates he's used on Oakbridge Farms along with the new hedge model, I thought I might hold fire and see if those would work on the map as well. Yeah, so those are kind of where they're at. So my focus at the moment is building out the farmyards, carrying on those things, getting the bulk detail done. The real meaty parts of the map. I haven't added any animals or anything like that in, so I'm sort of considering how I want to go through and do all of that. And then it's kind of getting down into the finer detail, the decoration, adding rubbish around yards and decorating the town. I can imagine that is going to take quite some time to do, but that's kind of where I'm sitting at the moment. So it's a work in progress. I don't profess to it being anywhere near complete. It is playable. I will certainly be playing on it a little bit. It's out with a few people who have had a look at it and they're providing me a little bit of feedback. A few trusted people who have that have the map, and yeah, just seeing what they think of it and just providing me a little bit of feedback now. I didn't want to go down a rabbit hole and end up in a spot where I I had to go through and redo a whole lot of things. So that is kind of what we're doing. But yeah, that's pretty much having a look here. First video taking an overview of Winchester, New Zealand. Like I said in the map teaser, my intention is to 100% have this for both PC and console. It is a 2x map, it is a standard map. No way was I biting off more than I could chew and taking on a 4x map as a first time. This has been enough of an effort as it is, and as you can see through the middle here, still a long way to go to get it to a point where I'm happy with it. And then, yeah, I might never be happy with it. Certainly learnt from Farms and Briscoe and those sort of people. You learn a lot, and there will be things that you kind of think, wish I'd done it a different way. But that's all part of the fun, actually, and that's what I've really enjoyed, is actually figuring out and learning how some of these things work, how to get things working, what's the way to do it, and yeah. Even now, there's things I do with the way I've done the roads, as they were one of the first things that I would go through and redo. So anyhow, I'm going to wrap things up there. There we go. First ever devlog here for Winchester, New Zealand. Thank you all very much for the support. I'm looking forward to your feedback. Please go easy on me. It is my first time. But do let me know what you think. If there's anything you've seen that you'd like to see, I certainly will take on all feedback, suggestions. If there's anything you'd like to see added or done, or anything you'd wonder if it is doable or even feasible to do, just drop a comment, let me know. Jump on Discord, drop me a message. I will certainly take it all on board. But like I said, be patient. It is all a learning exercise. But there we go. Thank you all very much for watching, and I will catch you in the next devlog in a couple of weeks.